Okay, seeing we have live streaming, what about the applicants and opposition for 5 South Drive? Are they here? Yes. And yes. Okay, then in that case, I will call this meeting to order. And we will start with the unfinished business. The first item on unfinished business is 5 South Drive, which has been deferred several times over the last few months. So yes, there's Tina. Can you give us a quick recap on where we are on this application?
Sure, Mr. Chair. So this application came before the committee in June of this year. It was deferred so that the applicant could submit elevation drawings and a plot plan showing the proposed foundation locations. The applicant did do that for the July meeting. However, staff did not have a chance to review it in advance of the meeting. And so the applicant was given another month to submit elevation drawings and a plot plan, which was done. Staff did review the drawings and revised the staff report and is recommending approval with conditions.
Okay, then in that case, all of the requirements put forward by this committee over the last few months have been accomplished. And actually, I will ask Mr. Steve Lyon if you have any further comments as to the application or subsequent materials submitted to the committee.
Sorry, was that question to myself?
No, that was a question to the opposition, Steve Lyon.
Oh, okay.
Good morning, everybody. I'd just like to comment on the house itself. And the size of the house, the side of the house, the right side of the house is 64 feet by 28 feet high. And it is actually the size of a drive-in theater, typical drive-in theater screen, if you can picture that. And it's going to block the sunlight coming into my backyard, especially in the wintertime when the sun rises 23 degrees above the horizon. So I'm going to get limited solar access. There are various windows on the side of the house, which I kind of liken as it looks like a warehouse with a white plastic siding on it. So I'm gonna have privacy issues with people looking into my backyard during the summer months. A fence, according to bylaws, will not mitigate this particular issue. So I have an issue with the size of and the height of the house encroaching on my privacy space and sunlight. In terms of occupancy, there's going to be 4 families and, you know, four sets of families living in this basic area that's really accommodated for a maximum of 2 families. I'm going to have, I'm really worried about vehicle parking, the amount of there's a tandem parking space for each house. I see across the street on where I live, there's a single family house with over 7 cars in the lot. I can imagine that the type of housing that is being proposed here will lend itself to having a lot more than a tandem, 2 cars in a parking lot. I'd like to understand what the basement use is, because there's an external door that heads into the basement, and my worry is that it will end up being another residence or a triplex of some kind. Environmentally, I cannot see why we're destroying a perfectly good house. I've been in this house before with previous neighbors, and it is in good shape. It can be duplexed. and it would lend itself to the existing neighborhood. And to that end, if I don't know if you folks have Appendix C available, and the staff report, Section 17E20, which says that the lots reflect the general scale and character of the established development pattern of the surrounding lands. I don't think these houses are reflecting that at all. I think they're kind of offensive looking on our street. They're blocking, like I say, the sunlight. The parking is going to get out of control. Waste management will get out of control. We see in Appendix C where the house on 52 South Drive is one of those type of houses that encroaches on people's privacy. It just dwarfs over the other building there. The one on 75 South Drive was probably built back in the day, and it accommodates, looks like the appropriate amount of parking. And excuse me. Same with 115 South Drive. 111 South Drive looks like a single family house with 2 stories and proper parking. Same with 59 Perth, and 53 and 55 Perth all look like they're acceptable houses with reasonable space and parking. I feel the house that's going to go in next door to me is going to take away my livelihood for privacy and sunlight. And this whitewashed wall will be like an assault on our daily livelihoods here. When I bought this property in 2008, I could have chosen to live like in a sardine neighborhood with packed in people, but I chose this because of how it was, how the city designed it with the appropriate bylaws, and those are now being uprooted. I think that's all I have to say, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, good. Stephen Butchick, or we'll hear from the applicant first. I'll preface that. Or Scott, do you have a point of order here?
Just a quick question for the resident. Can I get your address, just so I understand where if you're north or south of the proposal?
I'm north on 1011 Queens Boulevard.
Thanks very much.
Okay, Stephen Butchick, I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Do you have any comments?
So I want to start by saying thank you to Stephen, the neighbor to the left of us. I did try talking to him a couple of times once we bought the property of what was going to be developed here. We didn't really get a chance to go into detail. I felt like there wasn't, he didn't like to communicate much about what the plan was. But so the next to the property line, there's a garage, and then his house is more towards the Queens Boulevard. And I believe it's about 40 feet. There's a 40-foot distance to his house from the house that I'm planning to build. So I don't think there's going to be any sunlight issues, or that there's going to be any, I know he mentioned the windows and it's going to look like a big movie theater or whatnot, but it's, I think the proximity of it is not close enough for this to be an issue. And also we are well below what the maximum allowed is to be developed on this parcel. Another issue for the basement, so we're not planning to have a garage, so we plan to have storage for the units upstairs to be put in the basement. Yeah, I mean, that's basically the current house is about 60 years old. So we believe there's much better use of the land there, and it's getting up there with age. It's not as efficient, and with the current housing crisis, I believe we can help out with our proposal.
Okay, thank you very much. Turn it over to my colleagues on the committee. Does anyone have questions or comments regarding this application? Scott.
Yeah, I have multiple questions for staff. The kind of weird office projection on the two dwellings, is that simply to satisfy the range requirement for setback?
Yes, the setback of the dwelling does reflect the Rian's setback, and it's also to accommodate two parking spaces in tandem, 6 meters back from the property.
Okay. Did staff have any involvement in the current design of the dwellings in the lot? Do they have input, or did this come from the applicant?
The planner on the file was working with the applicant. I'm not sure how much involvement was given in terms of input into the design, but I know that the planner was definitely looking at the setbacks of the dwelling and making sure that parking was provided on site. Architecturally, planning staff typically don't have a lot of comments as it relates to style and colors of buildings.
Yeah. And did staff do an assessment of this particular neighborhood, especially the street? By my calculation, these two lots would be the smallest on the street if they were approved. Can you verify that?
I would need to talk to the planner on file, but that's typically what is done when we review consent applications is looking at the neighborhood and lot fabric. So I would assume that the planner did that review when they reviewed the application and looked at the recommendations.
Okay, and the applicant had submitted a number of photos of other developments in the area, and I just wanted to confirm that on pages 47, 48, and 49, by my calculation, the driveway widths on those particular properties would not at all comply with the zoning bylaw. They're effectively hard surface on the entire front yards in most cases.
I'm sorry, drawings in the staff report or drawings provided by the applicant?
They're in the staff report on pages 47, 48, and 49. They're just visuals of other properties, and effectively the driveways cover most of the entire frontage of the parcel. There's a reason for me asking that question. I'll get to it. But I just wanted confirmation that they don't comply with the zoning bylaw.
Sorry, I'm still trying to find where the drawings are. Are not in our staff report or?
Yep, they're your staff report,
Just
pages
our staff
47,
report.
48, and 49, correct. While you're looking that up, Tina, I have a question for Dave. The driveway on the most northerly lot is very, very close to the intersection of Queens Boulevard. Is there going to be an issue with another variance being required for spatial separation there?
No, there through you, Mr. Chair. No, there won't be, because they're altering, I think, the existing condition a little bit. Originally, we had a comment in there to pair the driveways and separate that, but since there's in order to do that, they'd have to take out there's 3 trees within the city boulevard that they'd have to remove one of those trees. So we did a rethink, and I talked with planning staff, and we agree that, we're going to leave the tree in so that the driveway can stay as is.
Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry, I'm still trying to get to the document. Apparently you have a full PDF document that I don't have access to right now on my screen, so I'm trying to
Okay.
locate that.
Through Mr. Chair, if it would be amenable, I can do a share screen and show the document which Scott is referring to.
Sounds good to me. And while you're in the process of doing that, Scott, you raised a very good question. In looking at these submitted photographs on page 47, 48, and 49, it does, oh, are we still here? Yeah, okay. Those, yes, those are the photos that were supplied in the report. And it does appear to me that the entire front driveway or front yard is completely hard surface, which I don't think is in compliance with the bylaw.
So the question, the reason I raise it, Tina, is looking at the site design. This will not be subject to site plan approval, just a building permit if approved. And I don't think the tandem driveway is going to function properly in the long run with the two residential units there. I think there'll probably be a request to the applicant will simply widen the driveway. What percentage coverage would this driveway be allowed to be in the zoning bylaw?
So I did not see those drawings. I'm not sure that the planner on file saw those drawings. They do reflect the drawings that the committee saw in the July meeting, which staff did have concerns with. So the plot plan or the foundation or site plan that's concluded in the staff report is revised to show a single driveway. The minimum driveway width is 40% the maximum driveway width is 40% of the lot width. So staff did ensure that the driveway as shown in the drawing that's supplied in the staff report is a driveway that meets zoning requirements. Anything else would not be permitted. And if there was changes to the property after the driveway was constructed, that would be a property enforcement bylaw enforcement issue.
All right.
Through the chair, if it wouldn't be amenable, just for clarity related to the agenda. Photos on 47 and 48 were provided by the applicant as part of his submission. So it wasn't included as a staff report. It was a written submission received between the last month's meeting and this month's meeting. So the written submission of the applicant starts on page 35.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I made that point clear. I hope I made that point clear when I raised it. I will stop my questioning there, but I'll let the rest of the committee know I'm not going to be supportive of this application. We had a similar one over by the Frederick Street Mall, where one of the lots was looking to sever, and it would have been completely out of character with the area. I don't think that the site design is reflective of the character of the area. The two smallest lots in this area with the largest houses, and they're actually pushed back on the lots just to comply with REAMS and provide parking. So I won't be supporting unless the committee can convince me otherwise.
Okay, any other comments from Jennifer or Mike? Jennifer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Mr. Hanna asked some very good questions. And I see where he's coming from on this application. I, in my own analysis, particularly in respect of the official plan policy requiring new lots to comply, where is it? To reflect the general scale and character of the established development patterns of surrounding lands by taking into consideration lot frontages, areas, and configurations. And I would note that staff has not, in the staff report, in any event, done any real analysis on that. So I think that would have been helpful to have for future reference. But for my analysis, desktop level analysis, I'm of a different opinion. I actually think that there is a variety of lot sizes, shapes, configurations in this area. It's not a grid patterned neighborhood, particularly because of the hospital. So I actually think that it is appropriate. I mean, this isn't part of the test, but there are no variances associated with the lot area or frontage. They actually seem to exceed quite substantially the minimum requirements for lot area and frontage. I appreciate the concerns about tandem driveway, but I think, you know, in an era of need for housing and intensification, creative solutions are required, and the future residents of that property will come in understanding that that is the situation that they will be in. And if that changes, as we heard, either there will be bylaw enforcement issues or a further application to the committee to legalize or to seek that relief if necessary. So I think the applicant has done quite a lot to try and move this application forward. Currently, I note also that it is one of the larger lots on this particular street. And within the broader neighborhood, meaning that it won't necessarily set a precedent for, you know, a lot of the smaller lots to sever as well. I also, just to address Mr. I've lost his name, Stephen
Lines.
Fines. Thank you, sir. I understand your concerns. I understand that change is difficult, but the proposed houses comply with zoning standards. So any potential shadowing or privacy issues, those are as of right, regardless of whether or not the lot severs. So I appreciate your concerns, but I think that the zoning bylaw is set up to mitigate any issues with sunlight and privacy issues at a low density level as is proposed. So I'm actually I'm prepared to support the application.
Okay, Mike, do you have any comments?
And just to support the comments of Ms. Meter in this particular application, I will be supporting the application. I think it's considerable time and effort has been spent on a design that will fit a not a developing neighborhood, but a neighborhood that is turning over, is changing its architectural look. And as I said, I'm fully supportive of the application moving forward.
Okay, so do we have a motion then?
I'm prepared to make a motion for approval of this application, subject to the numerous conditions that are in the reports. I don't think there's anything there that we wanted to add with respect to the region or anything like that. So I would make a motion that the application be approved.
Okay, we need a seconder. Looks like Ms. Meter is doing the seconding. Good. Okay, before we call a vote, I'm going to thank staff for going through this. It's been a long drawn out procedure, and I'd like to thank the applicant because it's a long drawn out procedure. The concerns from the opposition have been heard a couple of times. Things have been changed, and I think this is a good compromise. So I will call for a vote. All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, moving right along. The next bit of unfinished business is 9 Pleasant Avenue. Tina, can you give us a quick walk through this? It was deferred in June for elevation drawings. So can you give us a quick rundown on this? Well, is the applicant here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, and there's also someone in opposition who appears to be here. Okay, Tina, can you give us a quick run through on this?
Yes, this is an application, as you correctly referred to, that was heard by the committee in June and deferred until the August meeting. This was to give the applicant an opportunity to provide elevation drawings. The applicant had provided a plot plan or a site plan showing the foundations as they were proposed for the lots. He did provide elevation drawings in advance of the meeting, included in the staff report, so staff were able to review those elevations. And staff separated the recommendation and as it relates to the different, three different applications for consent with conditions for each, so the committee could decide on each application. And the applications were found to meet policies, both provincial, regional, and city, and staff is recommending approval subject to a number of conditions.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a quick question to either both the applicant, I think the agent probably, I can say that they have read the staff report. To the person who is in opposition, have you read the city staff report on this?
Are you talking to me as the applicant? Sorry.
No, actually, I'm going to be talking to Kai Reamer Watts.
Yeah, so I have read the staff report pertaining to this application.
Okay. Can you give us an indication of what you're opposed to?
Sure. So I think I would characterize my thoughts on this as concern, not necessarily opposed. I suppose to summarize, if I was to move into a neighborhood, my primary concern is around process. So if I was in the applicant's position and had purchased a property with the intention to tear it down and replace it with 4 others in a neighborhood, I would be striving to engage the neighbors in the area in a dialogue around this, because it is a significant change. So I understand that that's not a legal requirement that that the committee can require. However, again, I think that it would do well for the applicant to actually engage the neighbors in the immediate proximity of this, as regardless of how it goes ahead, it will be significantly disruptive. I mean, we're talking about tearing down a building and replacing it with 4 others. They are small lot sizes. I understand, similar to 5 South Drive, that seems to be a trend here, and I'm not opposed to creating new housing. I do have a few questions related to the staff report. One is, I believe on page 93, there's the indication of the provincial policy statement, which planning staff has said they are of the opinion that this proposal is consistent with that. And my question is related specifically to affordable housing, which that policy statement refers to, that it promotes an accommodating an appropriate mix of affordable and market-based residential dwelling types. And so one of my questions is how these new developments are going to be held accountable to that. You know, it's one thing to build new housing, but the need of the day is affordable housing. So I'm not at all sure how these are going to improve that, particularly when the dwelling as it exists right now is a rental dwelling that that appears to be more affordable to the occupants who live there. So I am curious how that's going to be encouraged with the new houses to address the housing crisis that we're in. Affordability is key. My other question is just around the tree protection and enhancement requirements. So the reality is that, as I've indicated before to the committee, the trees that had existed on the property when we prior to the purchase here were pretty much all taken down, which seems to have been beneficial to this application and that there's now nothing left to preserve. So I'm curious what the tree protection plan is actually going to require, including the replacement of some of the trees that were cleared out. On purchase of this property, they do provide privacy barriers, which will be all the more important if there are 4 new dwellings to be introduced. And I think it would be in the applicant's interest to just enhance the aesthetics of the property through intentional tree planting. So there's always been, I don't know if planning staff noticed this when they did a site visit, there's always been a tree corridor between the backs of the houses in this particular area. It supports biodiversity, privacy, etc. That has been diminished by clearing some of them out. So I hope that there is a requirement to replenish the tree corridor that existed in this area and has numerous benefits. My last question is just to circle back to respecting neighbors throughout this process. This is clearly going to be a multi-year process to build for new residences. There's going to be a lot of noise, a lot of disruption along the street during that time. I would simply hope that the applicant does their due diligence to actually to do this work in a respectful way. And again, I'm sure there's bylaws around that, and in addition, also speaking with neighbors. I will leave it to planning staff to kind of weigh in on the parking that is going to be added here. This, I think, several people have noted that this is a high traffic corridor, and 4 new driveways are about to be added according to this proposal. So yeah, given that ambulances regularly go up and down the road, I would have some concerns just around what this is going to do to congestion. But I would leave that to staff. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Tina, do you have any comments? I guess the Kai Bremer brought up 3 questions. Do you have anything? Well, actually, let me ask one first. For the Committee of Adjustment, there is no requirement under the Planning Act that we include affordable housing as a condition for severance?
No.
Okay, so maybe then you can address Mr. Watt's other concerns.
Yeah, so with respect to provincial policy, the provincial policy statement and affordable housing, planning staff create the opportunities for a mix and range of housing types and intensification and infill opportunities to be able to provide those opportunities for more housing in our community. Different dwelling sizes demand different market prices. So hopefully providing a mix and an opportunity for different infill opportunities that we provide that ability for applicants to provide a variety of market-based housing. As it relates to the tree management and preservation plan, that is a condition of the consent applications. And it is a condition that is registered on title so that that plan is prepared prior to the issuance of any demolition permits or building permits for the properties. So staff would approve that plan in advance of any demolition permit. We will look at existing vegetation, and we may even propose new vegetation or compensation for trees that have been removed through that process. But that plan is approved through our staff, and it is a condition of the consent applications. The third question, as it relates to traffic and transportation, I'll leave that to my co-worker, Dave Seller.
Dave.
Sure. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I looked at this, and Pleasant Avenue is designated as a minor neighborhood collector, which sees roughly between 2,000 to 5,000 vehicles a day. And so I did a little research and to find a traffic count along Pleasant Avenue, and we had one from 2011. And there was just under 2,100 vehicles. So I took those numbers and I forecasted them up to 2022. And it's just under 2,900 vehicles a day. So it's well within its range of operating capacity. And also that intersection of Pleasant and Queens Boulevard functions as a right in, right out. There's no left turns into Pleasant or no left turns out. So that also helps the intersection. Will people have to wait sometimes to turn right onto Queens Boulevard? Yeah, they might have to do that sometimes, but that's happening already today, even without these units being proposed. And this intersection is functioning properly and adequately.
Okay, that's good. Okay, I will turn this over to the committee. My colleagues, is there any questions or comments for either the applicant or staff or Mr. Watts? Scott.
Yeah, I've got a couple of quickie questions for staff. I think one of them's been partially answered. But just for the folks that are in opposition, I have, just for the record, I have read all of the comments, which I found some of them quite interesting. And Tina, I just wanted to know on page 136, at least in my my package, there was a letter about kind of the historical perspective on the house, who it was built by, et cetera. Has that altered the heritage value at all, or does heritage staff still look at this as no heritage value to the house?
Yes, heritage planning or cultural heritage planning staff have looked at the property and the consent applications and have advised there's no cultural heritage interest in the house.
Okay, perfect. And just a question for Dave, actually. And I thank the applicant for the elevations. The current ones, which I personally don't have any problem with at all, and I thank the applicant for that, don't match the lot fabric drawing in that originally the semi was going to have a mutual drive, and now there's the driveways on the outsides of the units. That would put one of the driveways in very close proximity to the intersection of Pleasant and Queen, and I just want to make sure if the design goes ahead as proposed, whether there's going to be an issue with that driveway location.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I looked at that. The driveway setback is greater than 9 meters from Queens Boulevard, so that it'll be acceptable for that first post house closest to Queens Boulevard for its driveway location.
Even with the fact that the plot plan doesn't match the current elevations? The plot plan has driveways in the middle of the units, and now we have driveways on the external of the units.
The plan I'm looking at has the first 2 driveways are paired.
Yeah, they're not paired. They're not paired anymore on the elevations, Dave. That's why I'm asking the question.
Oh, well, maybe I don't have that drawing.
Assistance, I just wanted to point out, I think Mr. Han is referring to the elevations on page 102 of our package. And I do see his point for sure.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to call up the actual report itself. I don't have that. I'm looking at the actual Committee of Adjustment application form. So you're going to have to bear with me then. I'll have to find the, unless Legal Services has it there available and they can jump to your page that you're talking about. Then I can look at it.
It's the difference between 102 and 104. I guess that's the question.
So a 2-meter drop? Is that what we're looking at, the elevation?
No, if we did a straight line projection on that one garage, it would really come out to the arc of the curve at Pleasant Avenue and Queens.
Yeah, I think I'm going to need to see this drawing. Hang on, I'm going to have, it's not what I was looking at before.
Yeah.
If I can jump in for a minute,
Sure.
Scott, I see I had missed this, and thank you for bringing it up. I do see with the elevation drawings on page 102 versus the lot fabric on page 104, The semi-detached on the page 104 has the cars parked side by side, whereas the elevations on page 102 have them on the extreme ends of the semi-detached property. And I echo your concern. So maybe Mr. Seller can get back to us on whether there will be a corner visibility issue.
Yeah, I will do that. I will work in the background and I'm getting close to pulling it up. I have a committee. I'm getting close to,
While you're doing that, Mr. Birbash had his hand up to make a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I think that we can fix that easily for that drawing. So we stick with the lot fabric where we keep the two driveways attached to each other.
I appreciate that. And I think that's where city staff are going to
Yeah.
ultimately want you to do. And I think with your elevations, you can easily work that. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, those are just like schematic drawings that to show the fabric and show the heights and the elevations. So this is something easy can be fixed architecturally. So I don't see any issue with that.
Okay.
It's easy, can be fixed.
Yeah, those are my questions, Mr. Chair. I do have some comments before somebody makes a motion.
Has Dave found what he's looking for yet?
no, actually I went to our, no, I haven't found it yet. It's not as user-friendly as you might think.
Well,
So I can clearly understand if residents have issues finding something. Anyway,
Through Mr. Chair, is this the drawing you're referring to?
I think so. Let me just verify with my report. Yes.
My apologies for the delay. I too was just scrolling through the package to get to your package is very large, so it just takes a minute to get there.
is there an aerial view of the plan to show where the driveways are going to be?
Right there.
That was the one. Oh, okay. No, that is the one that I was looking at.
Right. And I think, Dave, that's where you're going to end up. If you had the driveway on the far left, it's going to project right out to the arc of the curve at Pleasant and Queens, and I don't think that's going to work.
No, I agree. No, if that first house, if the driveway was shifted to the left to the edge of the building, you're correct that it would be an issue.
Okay.
But the way it's proposed right there, paired like that, we don't have an issue with that.
Perfect.
Right. I see that too. But I guess my question is although the elevations as provided aren't going to work for this property, at least they show the general intent. Well, it's only the semi that's of the concern on this. So I think if we state that the development will go ahead generally as per the provided drawings, I think we should be okay on that. And I do agree with Scott and with Dave that the applicant will probably have to tweak the drawings a little bit to suit parking requirements. Okay, Jennifer, you have a question, comment, concern?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, thank you. I would actually note that it appears that from the elevations, the same problem does occur with these, with the singles. I think the elevation needs to be mirrored to address the concern. And based on, this lot is at an intersection. Mr. Seller has done some, detailed analysis on the driveway locations and whether or not they work. So I think there should be a condition that ties the driveway locations generally to the site plan. I know we have a consent application, so I think it would have to be in the form of adding it to the agreement with the city to be prepared. And I know site plan through you, Mr. Chair, to Ms. Malone Wright, I understand site plan approval will be required for this application.
Site plan is not required for singles and semis, but you could put it into an agreement to be registered on title that staff would review prior to building permit.
Sorry, I missed that last part.
Sorry, that the drawings would be reviewed prior to building permit.
All right,
Issuance.
that's, yeah, and that as part of that, the driveway locations will be in general accordance with the site plan that was reviewed in the context of this application.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I thought that site plan for a certain number of units, but I thank you for clarifying that. And there was also a comment from Mr. Watt, Reimer Watt, I think it was, about replenishing the tree corridor. Ms. Malone Wright, I'm not sure if you spoke to this, but do you have any comments on how the city will ensure that trees are replaced?
So we do have a tree management policy, and the requirement of that is the tree management enhancement preservation plan, which is a condition of the consent applications. It is a requirement that would be need to be fulfilled prior to the issuance of any demolition or building permits. So staff would review and make sure that that plan meets our policies. That could include, replenishing the trees or planting new trees or compensation. Those are all types of things that are covered under the tree management policy as approval of that plan.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to confirm. That's very helpful. And just in terms of affordability, I agree with comments from Ms. Malone Wright. It's not every house that gets built in the future has to be affordable, and nor should it be. We need housing supply generally of a range and mix of housing types and tenures, and everything counts. And this is, I think, a very respectful intensification project for its context. And I will also comment that I agree with Mr. Reimer Watts that it's very important for developers and community builders to consult with the neighbors in advance of an application going in. That's always going to be encouraged, and it's very important to make the process run smoothly and to give some level of comfort to the neighbors and of course to try and address their concerns. Of course, it is not the lack of any kind of consultation is no basis. We have no right in law to turn down an application for lack of consultation. We have to review the application in the context of the statutory tests. And based on the staff report, I believe those tests are met, and I'm prepared to support the application.
Scott, you have further comments?
Yeah, I'm gonna just echo what I heard from my colleague Jennifer. Unlike the previous application, from my perspective, the lot fabric that's being created here is consistent with the neighborhood. The size and scale of the homes, and thank you very much for the elevations, are consistent with the neighborhood. Staff have confirmed that there is no heritage resource, even though it was a wonderful letter from one of the residents about the history of the project. I am hoping dearly with condition 13 about the enhancement plan that staff will consider some tree planting on this site, because it looks like based on the comments from the neighbors that tree removals have taken place, probably in contravention of the tree bylaw. But I fully support this application. I think it's an excellent infill opportunity.
Okay, Mike, do you have any questions or concerns?
Nothing that needs repeating or opening up, no.
Okay,
Are we then ready to make the motion to approve this application as amended by Ms. Meter?
yeah, I think that's appropriate. So there's a motion on the floor. Seconder. Ms. Meter, all in favor? Application carried. Thank you very much, everyone, for that.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah. Okay, that concludes the unfinished business. We'll move on to the next application, which is 407 Ottawa Street. Let me check here, 407 Ottawa. There is, the agent is registered and there's no registered opposition. Is the applicant here? That would be, where are we? Yes, I see Mr. O'Rourke is here. Okay, Ms. Meter or Ms. Malone Wright, can you give us a quick overview on this application, please?
Yes, I can. This is an application for permission for 407 Ottawa Street South. The property is a single detached dwelling in an industrial zone, therefore legal non-conforming use. The applicant would like to demolish the existing garage. It's in disrepair, and construct a new detached garage in the rear of the subject property. Staff have reviewed the application for permission in light of the two tests. Is it in the public interest? Does it create unacceptable or adverse impact upon abutting properties? Staff finds that it does meet those two tests and is recommending approval.
Okay, and the applicant is not, oh yes, the applicant is here. Sir, did you receive a copy of the city staff report on this application?
Yes, I did. And I've reviewed it, and it appears to be in compliance with what we intend with this application. So we're satisfied with that requirement.
Okay, and seeing there's no opposition to this, I do have one question for the applicant. You're essentially just redoing the garage. Is the garage going to be longer than the existing?
Yes, it is. The existing garage is smaller and sitting on a base that's deteriorated, and the wood framing is completely deteriorated, which is the need to replace it. So the new one will be larger in footprint, but complying with all the set bylaw for setbacks and heights and lot coverage, etc.
Okay, good, thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? I don't see anybody, so okay. Other than that one question I had, I don't have any further concerns. There's no objections. There's no GRCA. Does anyone want to move this? Scott?
I will move the staff recommendation that this application be approved.
Okay, is there a seconder? Ms. Meter. Okay, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, moving along to the next one, which is 68 Bright Up Street. I see the consultant for the applicant is here. Mr. Head, good to see you again, sir. It's been a while. Okay, so you're representing the applicant. I'm assuming, Andrew, that you have read the staff report? You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and yes, I have.
Good. You have any concerns with what the staff is recommending?
About to get fire approval and fire safety, and he kind of got caught in the cobwebs of policies here, and planning staff had recognized him as not his existing use did not comply with the zoning bylaw, and they want him to be a automotive repair shop. My issue, and I argued with staff that this actually isn't an automotive repair shop. It's a repair facility, which is allowed in the zoning bylaw. They argued that it is a repair facility, but we don't have a licensed mechanic on staff. We do not have a hoist on the property. So how can somebody be an auto mechanic and fit under that realm, we'll call it, if they don't qualify as a licensed mechanic and that being done, I'm not going to argue it anymore. I agree with staff report. We're gonna take our licks and just go away as quickly as possible and quietly, because we're caught in it's a he said, she said, and this is really easy. He's been there for years, and I have no comments, and I support staff's recommendations. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. I know this area fairly well. I actually, a number of years ago, bought some rims from this fellow, and I concur that it is just a tire and rim shop. They're not doing engine rebuilds, so I think this is just more of a housekeeping to legalize the existing ongoing operations. So I don't have any questions. Does the committee have any questions or concerns about the application? Scott?
I had a question for staff, but does Tina want to introduce the application?
I'm sorry. I got that. I got confused. Yes, Tina, can you give us a quick rundown on this application?
Sure, a lot's been said already, but I can highlight this is a minor variance application for 68 Bright Up Street. The minor variance application is to add a use, service or repair to motor vehicles. The use is not currently permitted in the M1 zone. The official plan general industrial does permit this use, and the property, it has not been rezoned under Crosby, so the new zoning bylaw. So if it were to receive a new zoning under the land use designation, that zoning would permit this use. So staff are recommending that the variance meets the 4 tests. Also the variances are to legalize the existing building so that the use can be in the existing building, which does not meet zoning requirements. So I think a lot's been said, but staff have reviewed the application and are recommending approval.
Good. Scott, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to let the applicant know, I fully support the application, but I want to make sure everything is covered. Transportation comments on page 177, Dave mentioned or appear to mention that there's a driveway visibility triangle variance required as well. And I just want to make sure that it's either going to be legal non-complying or it's required, because it's not included in the resolution.
For you, Mr. Chair, yeah, I did, when I looked at the plan that was submitted, I noticed that it was within the DVT, but we don't have an issue with it because it's an existing building. So we're fully supportive of the encroachment into the driveway visibility triangle.
So question for Tina, follow-up, is there a variance required or is it just legal non-complying?
This is legal non-complying.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, I agree. It's been around for a while. And there don't seem to be any problems that I've heard of regarding this property or application. Any further comments from the committee?
Mr. Chair, only that I share the confusion in terms of the use permission, use variance. Nonetheless, if everyone has come to terms with that, this property has been used as proposed for the last 9 years. No known negative impacts. No one's here in opposition. I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the application.
Okay, seconder. Mike, all in favor? Motion is carried. Andrew, you don't get a vote. Sorry. You used to get a vote, but not anymore. Okay, application is carried. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, moving along. The next one is application is 334 Waterbend Crescent. Let me check and see. Waterbend Crescent. There is no opposition. There's just the applicant. Is the applicant here? Yes, the applicant is here, Mr. Bishop. Okay, Tina, can you give us a quick run through on this application?
Yes, this is a minor variance application for 334 Waterbend Crescent. It's a minor variance for a reduction in rear yard. There's an existing rear deck and the applicant would like to improve its functionality and safety. So he'd like to make some repairs to the existing deck. So he's asking for a variance from 4 meters to 2 meters. And staff have reviewed the application in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act and finds that it meets all 4 and is recommending approval.
Okay, great. Thank you to Mr. David Bishop. Have you received a copy of the staff report?
No, I don't think I have. The last communication I had from the committee was a request to update my application on June 22nd or July 22nd, which I did. But I don't believe there's any further questions.
Okay, probably should have received a copy of the staff report, but we'll move ahead. Are there any questions, comments, concerns from committee members?
Mr. Chair, I will just comment now that this is a very reasonable application. It's intended to improve safety of egress. The actual area associated with the variance isn't going to actually be usable amenity space. It's a staircase. People aren't going to be lingering there or anything like that. So I'm prepared to support the application whenever you're calling for a motion.
Okay, I'm going to take that as a motion. Or is there any other comments from committee? Seeing none, is there a seconder for the motion? Mike had his hand up first. I'm just going to comment that this is a minor variance and there's no conditions. It's been moved, it's been seconded. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you very much.
Okay. What do we got here? Next application is 120 Rosemount Drive, 120 Rosemount Drive. There are no there's only one registered person, and that's the applicant. Yes, the applicant is here. Okay. Tina, can you give us a quick run through on this application?
Yes, this is a minor variance application for 120 Rosemount Drive. It's essentially an application to legalize an existing triplex or dwelling that contains 3 dwelling units. The variances relate to that. So it's to permit or legalize the side yard setback and to allow for the parking reconfiguration. Sorry, I can't speak this morning, which is currently under review as part of site plan application that we have just recently received. So staff will be reviewing the site plan to ensure the new parking meets all zoning requirements. And so the variances are required to legalize that new parking arrangement. And so staff has reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests of the Planning Act, finds that it meets all 4 and is recommending approval.
Okay, thank you. Question to Stacy Sharon. Have you received a copy of the city staff report on this application?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Do you have any questions or concerns?
No.
Okay, then in that case, I'll pass this off to the committee members. Does anyone have any questions or comments? And as usual, Scott is right there. Mr. Hanna, do you have any comments, questions?
Just a quick question for staff. And first of all, I want to commend the applicant for trying to legalize an existing situation. That's wonderful. And I think it'll be a safer arrangement for parking. So well done. I will be supporting the application. I just want to know from Tina, because the 3rd unit exists and it was created without permission, will building code compliance be a condition of site plan approval?
Staff will be issuing site plan approval. Maybe the applicant can confirm, but I believe that the unit was determined as part of an enforcement issue. So there are requirements to get building and fire code requirements up to speed.
Yes.
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you very much. That's great.
Any further questions or comments? I don't see anything. I read through the report, seems fairly straightforward. Is there a motion from the committee? Scott, you move this?
Yes, I move the staff recommendation again, Mr. Chairman. I think this is an excellent intensification opportunity. It's been there for years, and the applicant is improving the situation. So it has my support.
Is there a seconder? Looks like Ms. Meter. You're seconding it. Okay, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
And that was a quick one. Good. Okay, next application is 438 Highland Road East. Let me check this. There is the applicant, and there are 3 written submissions in opposition to this application. Is the applicant online? Julie Kipper. Julie, yes, okay. Okay. I don't know about the opposition. We'll get to that in a minute. Tina, can you give us a quick run through on this?
Sure. This is a minor variance application for 438 Highland Road East. The minor variances are to facilitate the development of an additional dwelling unit detached in the rear yard. So 2 variances are required: a variance to lot width from 13.1 to 12.1 meters. And the applicant also would like to build a slightly larger ADU than what is permitted by the bylaw. So the bylaw currently maxes it at 50%. The applicant would like 63% of the principal dwelling. So it would go from 36.9 to 46.5 square meters. Staff have reviewed the variances in light of the 4 tests in the Planning Act, and it finds that it can meet all 4 and is recommending approval.
Okay. There's no one registered in opposition, and there's no one here. I would like to note for the record that there have been 3 written submissions to this application. Maybe a question for Tina. Have you read these opposition concerns?
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just to step in, we do have 3 people registered in opposition. I believe 2 of them, or one of them, is in the meeting right now, and the applicant is also here. Yes.
Okay, I didn't see that. So before we get to comments from Tina, let's hear from, I guess it's, well, Andrew.
Yeah.
Force is the applicant. Andrew Force is the applicant, and Julie Kipper is in opposition. Maybe we should hear from Ms. Kipper as to her concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My husband and I are the homeowners of 434 Highland Road East, and we purchased that home in 2014. This neighborhood is a neighborhood of modest owner-occupied, single-family detached dwellings. The appeal to us was that it was a manageable property for a couple that was going to have retirement plans within 10 years. The property was manageable in size, and we felt a connection to the neighborhood. The connections that we formed have given us a strong sense of place in the community. Everybody helps each other and supports each other. In less than 8 years following our purchase, many of the single family homes have sold as owners have either moved away or passed away, many of them including the original owners of these properties constructed in 1955. In less than 28 years, or in less than 8 years, 25% of the homes in our stretch of land from Hoffman Street to Shoemaker Creek have been duplexed, and all of them but one are owned by absentee landlords. The sense of community and care created by the direct connection of the property owners to the neighborhood is being eroded. We have had to contact bylaw on numerous occasions to report issues regarding property standards, parking, and ice-packed sidewalk conditions. We directly oppose the requested variances for 438 Highland Road East, as we do not consider them to be minor variances for the following reasons. Although the staff report suggests that the existing lot width would provide sufficient amenity area, parking, and walkway access to the ADU, and for the owner to maintain their property in principal and detached dwellings, we are concerned that it does not. The sketch for the property illustrates that 3 parking spots will satisfy the minimum parking requirements. We're concerned that the tenants will have more than 1 vehicle per unit. In fact, the photograph in the staff report shows that there were 2 vehicles parked there. I'm assuming the 3rd vehicle in the photograph was the staff member. There are currently 4 vehicles on site, parked tandem side by side. The parking, so with the increased parking or increased vehicles, there will be increased street parking. And while there are regulations for street parking, these are not regularly enforced. The street parking, I have noticed, encroaches on the bike lanes that are in place on Highland Road East. Secondly, the proposed walkway to the ADU is currently obstructed by the principal dwelling's gas meter. The staff report comments that the amenity area is sufficient, but I couldn't find anything in bylaws or planning that define what amenity space should be. So I referred to the residential infill portion of the urban design manual for guidance in that respect. In our review, it's our opinion that there is insufficient outdoor amenity space for 3 dwelling units. Currently, the property is duplexed, and there are 3, the main floor of the dwelling are a couple. The basement is a single tenant who has girlfriends, add another dwelling unit on the premises, and you're going to have a minimum of 1, possibly 2 people. So that's 6 people probably on the premises with varying ages, interests, and possibly pets and companions. In order for the property to function properly, there must be consideration given to the placement of snow during the winter. It's one of those things that we're all looking forward to. The sketch illustrates that the placement of the walkway and the length. We're concerned that there will not be space for snow clearance without affecting adjacent properties, amenity spaces, and sight lines for the municipal sidewalk and road entrances. In contrast to the staff report, we feel that the proposed ADU will change the existing massing, height, and other design characteristics of the property. As indicated in the city's urban design manual for central neighborhoods, just because a building is in the rear yard does not mean that it doesn't have an impact on the feel and characteristics of the neighborhood or adjacent properties. The existing fence gate on the property that's shown in the photograph right in front of the parked vehicles will need to be removed to extend the parking. This will provide a direct sight line from the street to the backyard of the proposed ADU based on the sketch provided. An indirect sight line into the yard currently exists from the street as the chain link fence at 434, which is our property, does not prohibit or restrict that view. There are very few existing garages in this portion of Highland Road East. Since there is no existing garage on this property, the addition of the ADU does alter the design characteristics of the property and the surrounding neighborhood. The changes of elevation will serve to give the appearance of massing when viewing the property from rear yards on Highland Road East and Southdale Ave. The increased number of vehicles on the property will not be in keeping with the community character and will negatively impact the aesthetic quality of the community. In addition to our view that the requested variances are not minor, we argue that there will be adverse effects and impacts if the variances are approved. These adverse effects and impacts include, but may not be limited to, the following: possibility of flooding, pooling, and ponding. The terrain in this section of Highland Road East is sloped to Shoemaker Creek, resulting in changes of lot elevations and of the properties. The elevation change from 438 to our property next door at 434 varies in spots, but is generally 1 foot. The property to the rear of 438 on Southdale is a basement and 2-story fourplex with the basement partially above grade and not a 2-story dwelling as indicated in the sketch prepared by Van Harten Surveying. The elevation change from 438's rear yard to the adjacent triplex properties on Southdale is approximately 2 feet. In speaking with the previous owner of the triplex directly behind, she is actually still a tenant in the building now. She has stated that there is no retaining wall on that property. Paved parking for the tenants is abuts the rear property line at 438, and further windows for the basement units are located slightly above grade. The ADU will reduce water permeable land, and as such, grading of the land surrounding the ADU will need to ensure there are no negative impacts to the adjacent properties with respect to stormwater runoff and snow and ice melt and soil erosion. We have safety concerns with respect to the proposed parking, but directly affecting our property. Due to the elevation change, there is a short retaining wall along the property line with our property. Located in this area are the gas meter and air conditioning unit for our home. The retaining wall has shifted and buckled and is in need of repair. The affected area is in the section where the parking will be extended. However, extending parking into this area increases the risk of injury or damage to the property and could impair the safety of the persons at our property. Finally, impacts concerning the proposed size and height of the ADU. Staff has commented that the 9.6 square meter increase in size will not be noticeable. This cannot be stated as an absolute. The design and positioning of the ADU will determine whether it is noticeable and whether other assessments in the report will continue to be favorable. The elevation differences between properties may result in the structure being overbearing. The size and the height may have a direct impact on the privacy we have in our yard and thus the enjoyment we currently have of our property. It may also impair the natural light entering our home. Lastly, there will be an adverse impact resulting from light pollution. We currently experience light entering our home at night from the properties to the rear, where exterior lighting is provided during the night to cover the parking areas and pedestrian areas. Given the safety requirements and concerns for the ADU, we expect that the walkway and exterior lighting will be necessary and may impact our property and the property adjacent on the other side. We did express concerns regarding transportation. Transportation has indicated that there are no concerns. We will be taking those concerns to appropriate other committees or bodies within the municipality. We respectfully request that you reject the application for the reasons stated. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kipper, for quite a list of concerns. Before I put it to the committee, maybe Ms. Malone-Wright might be able to comment on some of the concerns raised by Ms. Kipper.
The application for an ADU does require site plan approval. So it does require an application that would be reviewed by staff to make sure the ADU is in its appropriate location, that parking is provided on the property in an appropriate location and configuration. Currently, the parking arrangement will have to be modified to remove excess asphalt, both in the front yard and rear yard. This will increase, hopefully increase the amenity area in the rear yard. In terms of, I try to identify all the concerns, but I think the majority of them, as I can say, that the site plan application is a process that is reviewed by staff to make sure the ADU can function accordingly on the property and that the zoning or the property can meet all zoning requirements through that process and will not impact abutting property. So, and that's also the building permit application and process as well for the ADU will ensure that there are no site grading concerns or stormwater management flooding concerns as it relates to the ADU. So hopefully I've addressed the concerns. I think the bottom line is that we have a site plan application approval process that would address all of them.
Thank you. That does address most of the questions brought forward, and some of them are outside of the purview of this committee. So I will pass this off to my fellow committee members for questions or comments. Scott, you have a comment, question.
Is there someone else in opposition?
No, not in attendance here.
Oh, okay, okay. So yes, I do have questions for staff, Mr. Chairman, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Just a question for staff on the sketch, and I know that's not the approved drawing. It's showing the walkway around the side, which is a requirement of the ADU that individual who's living there has access. It's showing it as 1.1 meters wide. Is that a requirement? I thought it was wider than that.
The requirement is 1.1 meters.
It is 1.1?
Yes.
Okay, and so the lady who spoke this morning and also several other comments talked about this gas meter, which will not provide the 1.1. Through site plan, would that have to be relocated?
Yes, the walkway needs to be unobstructed, so staff would be reviewing that to ensure that is the case through the site plan approval process.
Is the applicant here, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I believe so. Yes. Mr. Foss,
I just had a quick question for the applicant as well.
Mr. Force, sorry.
This is going to be a one-story building. That's my first question.
That is correct.
And have you got preliminary design for the ADU? And I'm just more interested in the side facing 434, whether there will be windows facing that yard.
So the current does not have, I currently do not have preliminary drawings. And the reason for that is because I'm not a developer. I don't have the capital to dump in all this money before I get approval for the minor variance. So I currently can't, jump into detailed or heavily designed, but we can certainly make, design changes to make sure that the city and the neighboring community is satisfied with the final product.
Can you help me with the size of the board fence in the rear yard there? Is it 5 feet, 6 feet?
In height?
Yes.
I'm not sure the exact height, but it's about 4 to 5. About 5 to 6 feet. It's fairly tall. It's actually, now that I think about it, it's taller than I am. So I think it's 6 feet.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions, Mr. Chairman. I'll have other comments, but those are my questions.
Okay, any other comments, questions from the committee? Ms. Meter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Hanna addressed most of my questions. Just through you to the applicant, just following up on Mr. Hanna's question about windows on that side-facing facade. Would the applicant, I know you haven't gotten into detailed design at all, but is it possible, subject to building code, to agree to have no transparent windows on that facade, so that there'd have to be, opaque windows only?
I'm not aware of any reason why that could not be done.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I might be asking that be a condition of approval. I have no further questions at this.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, Jennifer, you want to add a condition that the windows facing the adjacent property be not transparent, but translucent, I guess would be the word.
Opaque.
Opaque, okay.
Limited opacity, yeah. So
they're not really windows anymore.
Well, they still allow light in. I've seen this condition numerous times in other municipalities. It's just that there would be sort of no visibility through it, but you still get light.
Okay, just wanted clarification on that. So there is an extra condition added to this. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Tina, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was just ensuring that the condition can be satisfied. So if it could be put into an agreement registered on title to the property, so that it's not a circular condition, the applicant can't satisfy it because he can't get his building permit because the variances can't come into effect. So I'm just making sure that the condition can be satisfied with it being in an agreement registered on title.
Okay. Or could we just leave that for site plan to determine?
It would be part of the site plan agreement, Mr. Chairman. I think that's the correct approach.
I'm inclined to agree.
I just want to throw out there that I've seen this condition just simply attached to approvals of minor variances numerous times by the tribunal, by other municipalities. I don't think it needs to be anything more than a condition to the minor variance. I think we might be making this a little bit more complicated than necessary. I don't think there'd be any issues in it clearing the condition. It's just that it's a condition that attaches to the approval indefinitely. So you can still get your building permit showing your drawings with opaque windows. And then you just have to indefinitely fulfill that condition. It would always be attached to the approval.
I'm wondering, I'm not sure staff. Well, I'll leave it to staff. Tina, are you okay with this never-ending condition?
Maybe there's a way to put it into the wording of the recommendation to facilitate the development of an ADU with opaque windows and a certain side yard, rather than as a condition that needs to be satisfied. I'd like to somehow incorporate into the recommendation if we could. Just makes it easier for staff to clear the condition. If there's conditions that are hard for staff to clear, sorry.
Okay, does that answer your concerns, Jennifer?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's a different approach. I'm fine with it. I think I'm fine with it if that's staff's preference. That
Okay.
addresses my concern.
Further comments or questions from the committee? Scott?
Sorry, my phone was ringing there, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to provide a couple of comments. I have read all of the neighborhood letters of objection. There's clearly concerns about privacy, drainage, parking, and functionality. In its wisdom, the city has created this new policy for ADUs. It's in its infancy. I'm going to support the application subject to the condition about the windows, because I think that will address any concerns about privacy for the resident beside, in case the fence is ever removed at some point in the future. In my view, this lot will be functional and it's going to be subject to site plan approval. My question about the gas meter was answered. I know that parking will have to be redone a little bit to accommodate the city requirements. And like I say, I think the staff report has pointed out that this is, the two variances are minor. They meet the 4 tests and the development of the lot will be functional. So again, it's the new policy and this one seems to make sense.
I'm in agreement. Is that a motion, Scott?
If Mike has nothing further to say, yes, I will certainly move the staff recommendation subject to something in the wording of the recommendation that requires the windows on that side lot line to be opaque if they are there.
Okay, there's a motion, a seconder. Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Next application is 59 Bruce Street. Is the applicant here? Let me just take a quick look. Bruce Street. Yes, I see the applicant is here and there's no registered opposition. So Tina, can you give us a quick run through on what the application is about?
Yes, this is an application for consent for 59 Bruce Street. It's to divide an existing divided semi-detached dwelling that's currently under construction so that each half of the semi-detached dwelling can be dealt with independently. Staff have reviewed the consent in light of all the policies and finds that it would meet those policies and is recommending the consent subject to a number of conditions.
Okay. Seems fairly straightforward. The region fee has been received. The conditions have a noise clause in it. Just a comment quickly to staff. I know we're suffering technical difficulties. In some of these applications, there are, I guess it's photographs that are missing. So I've had to take a look at it via Google. Elevations have been provided. It's under construction. So I know that Mr. Hanna normally comes forward with the comment that he likes to see the building elevations before providing a severance, and that part has been dealt with. So any comments from the committee? Jennifer's saying no. Scott saying no. Mike saying no. Okay, can we have a motion?
Chair,
Mike.
Oh, jump in there, Sarah, go ahead. Or Jennifer, go ahead.
Sure. Motion that the application be approved, subject to the conditions set out in the staff report.
Seconder? Mike, all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Next application is 4143 Harvest Court, an interesting one. Where are we? Here we are. Okay. Is the applicant or the agent here? Yes, I see the agent is here for the application. Do the agent have you had an opportunity to see the staff report?
Yep.
Okay. Tina, can you give us a quick run through on the application?
Yes, this is a consent application for 41 to 43 Harvest Court. It is the whole of a lot on a plan of subdivision that did not take advantage of the part lot control bylaw before it was repealed in 1983. The applicant is coming in to sever the lot so that each half of the semi-detached dwelling can be dealt with independently. Staff have reviewed the application in light of all the policies and finds that it meets all those and is recommending approval subject to a few conditions.
Sounds a little unique. We haven't had one of these exactly like this where the property is two different addresses, but yet still the same property. That's all my questions. The region has been paid. There's no parkland requirements. So I will pass this off to the committee for questions or comments. Scott, you have a question or comment?
Just a question for the applicant. Condition 4 requires this agreement for noise levels on Dune Road. Are you okay with that condition?
Yeah, we're fine with that.
Okay. Probably be 6 months of your life to get it approved, but go ahead.
Okay. Made us all smile. Any further questions, comments from the committee?
I just to follow up on Mr. Hannah's comment, Mr. Chair. I noticed that these are becoming very prevalent in these applications, these noise clauses relating to existing arterial roads. I think it's a bit onerous, unnecessary, but if the applicants aren't objecting, then I guess we'll continue imposing those conditions as requested. So I'm happy to move that the application be approved with the conditions set out in the staff report.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Seconder. Scott, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
All right, moving along. Next application is 273 Heartwood Avenue. Let me just see. There's the two registered participants. Both are applicants. Are they here? Yes, Nikola Karanovic. If I've got that close, I apologize if I pronounced it wrong, but you are here. Have you had an opportunity to see the staff report, sir?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good. Tina, if you've got a minute, can you give us a quick run through on this application?
I sure can. This is a consent application for 273 Hartwood Avenue. It is a consent to recognize as both halves of a semi-detached dwelling currently under construction. Applicant has advised, our staff, Parks Planning staff have advised that condition 10 is no longer necessary. There has been financial compensation received for the street tree. So that condition can be removed from the approval. Staff have reviewed the consent application in light of all the policies and finds that it meets all those and is recommending approval subject to the conditions less number 10.
Okay, I just want to make a comment. The report that we got showing an elevation of the new drawing does not appear on page 321, although it looks like it should. And I went through and the elevation is shown on page 344, and there's a bunch of them there. So that satisfies my concerns. Any further comments from committee or staff? Not seeing anything. Tina has told, okay, Scott, you got something for us?
No, I'm just prepared to move the staff recommendation subject to conditions 1 through 9.
Sounds good to me. Seconder? Jennifer, all in favor? Carried. Okay, last but not least is an application for 160 Bullock Street and 10 Pearson Street. And there is no registered opposition. And Mr. Pigeon is here. Good to see you. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chair and Committee.
Have you had an opportunity to see the staff report?
Yes, I have, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Sounds good to me. Tina, can you give us a quick run through on this application?
Yes, very quick. This is a consent application to replace a blanket easement for access and servicing with a more specific easement as detailed in the reference plan. Staff have reviewed the application and finds that it meets all the policies and is recommending approval subject to a few conditions.
Okay, sounds fairly straightforward. I see that the region's fee has been included as condition number 4. That's good. Nothing from the GRCA. And this is just to amend an existing easement for access and servicing. So I think it's fairly straightforward. Any comments from the committee? Scott?
Yeah, just to put the applicant at ease, I have no concerns with the application. I just wanted a quick question of staff. Engineering was concerned about the wording of the easement, not referring to municipal services. I think condition 1A deals with that because you're going to be dealing with the description of the easements there. I just wanted to have comfort.
Yes, staff are aware of engineering's concerns and 1A has been crafted in that manner.
Perfect. Thank you.
Tina, you have something? Guess not. No. Any further questions from the committee? Jennifer?
No, sorry, Mr. Chair, I don't have any further questions. I was just going to note that this appears to be a housekeeping exercise really more than anything, and I'm prepared to move that the application be approved.
Is there a seconder? Mike, all in favor? Carried. Okay.
Great, thank you, committee.
Have a
And
great
staff.
day.
Thank you too.
Okay, that concludes the items listed on the agenda. I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn, but I want to make a comment to the committee and staff that after we are off live streaming, can we have a short discussion about doing hybrid meetings in the future? This has been quite an important topic. I know City Council did that. So if you folks are all okay to go off live streaming and get an update from staff on the status of hybrid